On conflicts. When I was talking to a friend of mine on Zoom about her difficulties in Cambridge and moving and so on, she asked me, have you talked about conflicts, particularly conflicts between neighbours, between landlords and tenants, and conflicts within families? And I suddenly realised that I hadn't, but that this is a very fruitful and interesting area. It's an area which I've paid a great deal of attention to in my historical work, because when Sarah and I studied an English village over 400 or 500 years, the courts, the minor courts, the village court leet and the court of sessions and others were filled with neighbourly disputes and conflicts which had escalated out of just something normal into something which was taken to a court. And I became interested in the process of how these were settled and what were the causes of the conflicts. In my own life, I've been enormously fortunate. I could name the serious conflicts I've had either with individuals. I could put them on the fingers of one hand. A couple perhaps with students in the 35 years of teaching, which is pretty good. And particularly, we have a very long garden with about 6 houses along its edge. And we have apple trees and other trees growing over there, and they have things growing over into our garden, and fences fall down and so on. And we've been living here for over 35 years. And during that time, with changing neighbours, sometimes with dogs, sometimes with children, I can only recall a couple, 2 or 3 occasions where there was a minor contretemps, as we put it, which means just a small difference, where someone climbed over and cut down 1 or 2 of our branches because it was going into their garden, or complained about this or that. And once or twice we may have complained about someone's dogs barking all the time or something. But it's been very conflict-free. And likewise on the other side, where we've had an old farmer living for 20 odd years when we first came, and then other neighbours, there's been no neighbourly conflict. And neighbourly conflict is one of the most unpleasant that you can experience, because once you fall out with a neighbour seriously, from then on you're watching each other. The pleasure of walking down your garden is diminished in case they might pop up and slag you off or whatever. So I've taken the policy that basically, if there is a cause of tension, you should by all means resolve it. Either go round and apologise or ask if they can do anything about it, but don't make it into an issue, otherwise it'll fester. And the same in family relationships. If you have some kind of difficulty with any member of your family, the sooner you can resolve it, even if it means you conceding something and knowing that you're in the right, but you accept it, then you will have peace of mind, because it's not just the conflict that causes or is the main issue in your life, it's the rebounding down through the ages. In some societies where they have vendettas and blood feuds, these conflicts are passed on from generation to generation, and societies and civilizations likewise, certain nation states have perennial tensions and conflicts with their neighbours. But I've been fortunate, as I mentioned, in that the conflicts I've faced are very minor and easily resolved. There have been 1 or 2 where someone has sold one something under par, or one has had a driving license, driving endorsement one feels one shouldn't have had. But again, it's often better just to pay the small fine and get on with life. Life is too short to be absorbed in conflicts. That is, if you've got plenty to do. some people, I imagine there are cases and places where conflicts are the spice of life, and where you keep a good conflict going, as nations do, keeping a good Cold War or hot war going, because it solves all sorts of internal problems and takes attention away from other things. But I haven't needed that. I've had plenty to get on with without having conflicts. So my advice really is, if absolutely necessary, stick on to your rights. But if it's just a small thing, then go for peace of mind.